We're live? Perfect. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the COP28 Paris Fair Pavilion. We have a great event in store for you today. First of all, I'd like to thank the team from ICCI, the International Cryosphere Climate Initiative, for allowing us to use this fantastic space to share our important messages. So my name is Heidi Silvestre. I'll be the moderator of this session today. I'm a glaciologist. I work for the Arctic Council for AMAP, the Arctic Monitoring and Assessment Program, but I'm also the science representative of Protect Our Winters Europe. So the event today, and I hope you're all at the right place, is about protecting our winters, mobilization of the outdoor sports community in combating climate change. So a quick intro about what's happening in our beautiful mountains. As you know, mountains are typically warming twice as fast as the global average. Snow and ice serve as vital sources of fresh water for up to 2 billion people. And they also play a crucial role for various economies through activities like tourism and outdoor sports. So this event will focus on the shifts that are happening in snow and ice regions, with a special focus on mid-latitude mountain ranges. And we will explore the impact of climate change on water resources and also on the outdoor sport industry. And we will try to showcase successful initiatives where the outdoor sports community has rallied to combat climate change. So we have a fantastic list of speakers today. Some of them have pre-recorded their presentations. Some of them are deep in the mountains, snowboarding today, and some of them are speaking to us from the snowy lands of the United Kingdoms. So we will begin with a recorded presentation, and we're very lucky to have him participating in this event from Professor Samuel Morin, who is a research scientist working for Météo France and CNRS in France. He's the director of the Snow Research Center, and he's also the head of the Snowpack team. So Samuel, I will play your video now, and the video will be focusing on what's happening to the snow depth, the snowpack, especially in the mountains of Europe. Switch our audio for us. Doing it for doing it for the benefit of our online viewers, so you can join in as well.
There we go.
And then we'll move to yes.
Perfect.
Hello everyone.
Here we are.
My name is Samuel Morin. I'm a research scientist in Météo France and CNRS in Toulouse and Grenoble, France. And well, first of all, we need to remember that the snow cover is a cornerstone component of the cryosphere. So when we think about the cryosphere, we mostly think about ice sheets, glaciers, sea ice, etc. But the mountain snow cover and snow cover more generally is indeed a component of the cryosphere, the frozen areas and the frozen components at the surface of the Earth, and it's actually a major one. While it feeds the glaciers, the ice of the glacier, and in more generally, the mass and energy balance of mountain glacier crucially depends on the snow cover that is overlaying the glaciers. So the mountain snow cover is a critical water resource within an upstream mountain area due to its role on the albedo at the local scale. And of course, mountain snow cover is related to a number of natural hazards, in particular avalanche and floods. And it's also specific for mountains and forest mountains. And it's a key feature of the landscape, so it also has some value in terms of culture. There have been a number of studies in the past for documenting past changes about the mountain snow cover. However, they all point to the fact that the observation networks are sparse and heterogeneous in different regions of the world, and also that different indicators are used to characterize snow cover in the mountains. So we find different results based on different indicators when it comes to documenting the depth, the mass, called also the SWE, the snow water equivalent, but also the snow cover duration. and a number of other indicators relevant to the mountain snow cover. So we need to bring all those information together and cover because of the large internal variability. So if you have only 10 or 20 years of observation, that's too short because of this variability. In the IPCC report, the special report on ocean and cryosphere that came out in 2019, and it's particularly the high mountain areas, chapter 2, we talk So when it comes to the future, then we need to focus on different scenarios that reflect different pathways in terms of greenhouse gas emissions due to fossil fuel combustion in particular. That's a sketch from, and that's a figure from also the IPCC special report on ocean and cryosphere that shows for different regions of the world, Western Rocky Mountains in North America. That shows as a function of elevation, the change in winter snow water equivalent, so the mass of snow, but also at temperature changes in the wintertime and in the summertime. And they all find that the change in the snow amount or depth depend greatly on elevation, with maximum changes around and below the current mean snowline elevation. Of course, under higher elevation, we have stronger snow cover reduction. And as a rule of thumb, we can remember that at low elevation in European Alps, each degree of further global warming leads on average to an additional loss of 1 month snow cover duration. So we've already lost about a month since the early 70s of snow cover reduction. Period is about 4 or 5 months, depending on the location. So 1 month is clearly something that is not negligible. We notice in some areas some elevation-dependent warming. That is the fact that the warming level is not the same depending on elevation, but that's not the major factor for snow cover reduction, because warming, even if it's homogeneous with elevation, has an impact on the melt and has an impact on the shift of snowfall to rainfall, and that's the major pattern. And the fact that the temperature itself, the change in temperature itself, changes with elevation, is clearly a secondary factor for snow cover change. That's a zoom into what we find in the European Alps, where you find the strongest reduction for the high emission scenario, especially for the end of the 21st century, that can reach about 60 to 80% reduction for the low elevation areas, that is in the Alps below 2,000 meters elevation. We'll just quickly speak about the impact and risk to ski tourism, because that's also the focus of this meeting. And here is an example that shows that that Europe and the Alps in particular is really the main and the major market for ski tourism globally, and that's about 200 million ski days per year, with an annual turnover of about 30 billion euros per year, and where the European Alps dominate. So we find some variability in the number of skier visits per regions over time, and in particular we find that in 2006-2007 there was a decrease for 1 year in the Alps, and that was due to a snow scarce winter, and the two last winters of the spot here refer to the COVID-19 situation, so not something entirely related to climate change and snow cover. It's been long identified that by the IPCC, starting all the way back to the second assessment report, and then there was a mountain chapter in Benistan in 1995, that found that there could be considerable socioeconomic disruption in communities that have invested heavily in the skiing industry due to the warmer climate. That's diversification, but also by investment in new technologies such as snowmaking equipment, as long as climatic conditions remain within appropriate bounds. And it was also found back in 95 that artificial snowmaking often raises environmental concern because of the quantities of energy, water, etc. required for snowmaking, the disturbances during the operation of the equipment, and the damage to vegetation observed for the melting of the artificial snow cover. So really, a number of the points were already found in the literature quite some time ago, over almost 30 years ago. We've recently conceptualized decline influence ski resort operation and ski tourism, but also snowmaking operations, and we find that the ski tourism snow supply risk, that is the frequency of snow scarce conditions on ski pistes, that is how often it is difficult for ski resorts to operate, depends on the hazard, that is the frequency of natural snow scarce conditions and warm winter, but also the exposure, where the ski resorts are located, the latitude, longitude, elevation range, and the vulnerability, that is to what extent the local economy depends on ski tourism. And so if we bring all those factors together and we bring snow management into the equation, we find that, well, on the one hand, it would tend to decrease the frequency of snow scarce conditions on ski pistes because we had some snow on ski pistes. But on the other hand, it also snowmaking then the emissions are dominated by transportation and housing. So in fact, here we have an example where snowmaking is at the center of the concerns of many people in the mountain areas, because it's a very visible means of combating or adapting to climate change by adding more snow when there is increased snow scarcity. And of course, this has some environmental impacts. But if you think more broadly in terms of the carbon footprint of the tourism sector, again, tourism is 8% of global greenhouse gas emissions. This is mostly driven by transportation and housing. So a meaningful action to reduce the impact, to reduce the footprint of tourism, in particular ski tourism, in terms of not only reducing the carbon footprint of ski tourism operations, but also the ski tourism broader footprint that includes transportation and housing. So a few take-home messages: the mountain snow cover in low elevation snow cover duration in European Alps, and slightly different figures in different mountains of the world. Further changes are expected, and they all depend on future emissions. And as a rule of thumb, again, 1 month of further snow cover duration reduction in European Alps per degrees of global warming. So such changes are causing and will cause increasingly severe disruption for water resources, natural hazards, ecosystem, energy production, tourism in mountain areas. And again, the efficiency of adaptation methods will depend on location. Ski tourism really epitomizes cases where there is a vital benefit in considering jointly adaptation and decarbonation mitigation of the sector and destinations, taking into account transportation, housing, and related externalities, ecosystem, water resources, etc. So again, it's not only a matter of what is the impact of climate change on ski tourism, it's a matter of what role plays ski tourism in a more global and comprehensive way in the context of climate, but also decarbonation, and that needs to be serious about causes of emissions due to tourism and in particular ski tourism. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope the meeting goes well, and I look forward for the outcome. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Samir, for recording this presentation. You're a very busy person and also one of the best experts on snow, definitely in the world. So if you want to email your questions to Samuel, really don't hesitate to take his
Alisa, if you're still on, we'll definitely bring you on, and I'll stop sharing my screen here because you'll be sharing yours. So Alisa Morby is actually the president of Protect Our Winters Europe, and he's very happy that he's just been making the most of the snow falling over the UK. So can you see him, Amy? Can you see Alisa?
Yes.
Perfect.
I have no idea what's been going on in the pavilion, Heidi, but Elias seems to have popped back. If you're waiting for Elias.
He's back. Okay. Oh, if he's back, then I'll share my screen.
Maybe we should grab Elias while we have him.
Exactly. I will share my screen now.
Yeah, I'm going to take that. But,
so give us just a couple of minutes to switch everything. Elias will need you now, so if you can stay on.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah, perfect.
I hope the internet is stable.
Yeah, it's okay. I think it will work.
Cut out for a
So
second.
whereabouts are you right now? Oh, I see. I'm
in Hochfügen, Austria.
in Tirol. Ah, so lucky. What a beautiful day. So
Yes.
Elias, you asked me to share a few slides because you wanted to share a story. Is that correct?
Sorry?
So you asked me to share a few slides that you sent me.
Yes.
Are you happy to go through these slides?
Sure.
Okay, let me just pull them up. Up. Here they are. Okay, Amy, yeah, they're showing up. Perfect. Good. So what we can see now is a picture of a young you, I believe.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so this is me 20 years ago, or actually even 21 years ago. I was 14, and all I wanted to do is snowboard and do that for a living. And this was my big dream. And so I did everything to pursue that dream. And here we are 20 years later on the mountain, and I still am fortunate enough to having, well, pursued that dream and still being able to do that for a living. Maybe the next slide.
Next slide. See if you put it up. Yep. So it's a series of pictures this time. It's you are doing
well,
crazy
there's
things.
just random. These are just random impressions. A lot. You still hear me, right?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Yeah, we can hear you again. Is it possible to
cool.
put in?
So first I was.
Thank you.
Okay. First I was competing a lot, and then I was in regular competitions, and then I was getting
It's maybe
more
you can just turn off your camera. Actually, we'll just do with the audio. This will be
the
good.
backcountry, which is basically where we're at the moment, with a very.
Yeah, Elias, actually, you can please turn off your camera. I think the sound will be a little bit better. Oh, we lost him for good. Yeah. It's a bit tricky in the mountains. Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, no, he's back. He's back. Let's wait just a couple of seconds. Elias, can you hear us? It might be tricky. Well, maybe we should move on to Alistair now while the connection is trying to sort itself out. Elias, if you can hear us. Oh, yeah, perfect. He will connect again. We'll now move on to Alistair. Alistair, if you're ready. That's how it works when you're in the mountains. Sometimes there's a good connection, sometimes it doesn't work. So it's actually quite good to get a feeling from the field. here in the buildings of COP28. So Alice, are you ready? Yeah, thumbs up. You're happy to speak? Perfect. Fantastic. So Alice, please tell us where you've been snowboarding or skiing already today, because you've had an early start. And we look forward to hearing your presentation. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Heidi. And there's nothing quite so authentic as trying to speak to one of our phenomenal Protect Our Winters athletes directly from the mountains. But apologies for all of the struggles there. Hopefully we'll get Ilias back at some point later to tell his story, because it's a story that we're all passionate about. So my name's Alistair Maltby. I am the president of Protect Our Winters Europe, or the chairperson, if you like, depending on where you are. This is a voluntary role. It's something I do in my spare time. And in my day job, I'm one of the directors at the Woodland Trust in the UK, director of estate and outreach. So my day job is working for one of the UK's largest NGOs, working on old growth forest protection and recreation of native forest habitats. So I'm a professional environmentalist and conservationist, as well as doing this voluntary role. So a little bit about Protect Our Winters. Actually, before I started, I wanted to show this picture. This is from this morning here in northwest England. I decided I would get up early this morning to practice this presentation, and looked out the window and decided there was something better on offer. But that's a really important story, actually, and it's a really important reason why I'm here and why did I get involved with Protect Our Winters. The slides have disappeared now on my screen. Can you still see them your end? Oh, there we go. Okay, excellent. Why did I get involved? I think after 25 years working in conservation, it was clear to me that the traditional messages through the traditional audiences weren't going to be enough to face the climate and nature crises we face. What has always attracted to me about Protect Our Winters is it brings together brands, it brings together athletes, it brings together scientists, it brings together snow sport enthusiasts, who are all passionate about the outdoors, and they have a very, very authentic and close link to the outdoors, and it affects them very personally. And this creates a grassroots movement that reaches much, much wider than the normal audiences, and it definitely punches above its weight. And it's become, as a global movement, really influential in the places where it operates. And if you can imagine the impact, or we heard, just earlier in the presentation, the financial value of snow sports and snow to economies in mountain areas. And if you think in places like the United States, that economy is concentrated in very much red and purple states where, where politics wouldn't normally subscribe to severe climate change measures. But mobilizing the people in those areas behind climate policies has been extremely influential. So power punches above its weight. And for that reason, I'm really, really passionate to be a part of it. So just the POW Europe team always start their presentations with this message. We have used 50% of our carbon budget since the last IPCC report. If there's any chance of us limiting climate change, or 80% chance of limiting climate change to 1.5 degrees C. So we have a huge amount of change to influence over the next few years. Oops, move on 2 slides. So Protect Our Winter Europe's mission is to harness the passion of the outdoor community to turn the tide on climate change. And I'll try and outline a few ways in which we've been trying to do that. The first program of work that POW engages on is Educate. And it's great that we've got Elias back, because one of our tools that's adopted across at least 7 of the European POW chapters is the HPCA program, or Hot Planet Cool Athletes. And that mobilizes the phenomenal members of our Athlete Alliance to work with schools to create a new generation of climate advocates who understand the link to climate action and the things that they love in their areas. POW UK leads on a program of carbon literacy with the UN recognised carbon literacy project, but they have a bespoke course that they run with the outdoor community and outdoor brands that's very much targeted towards our audience. And we're really, really proud of an Erasmus Plus funded project called Zero, the emission rides objective. And that is really looking to increase participation in what we are fully aware is an exclusive and privileged activity to take part in snow sports. But we recognise that that in order to affect the change we want, we need to increase participation in mountain and outdoor sports for a new generation of people to really connect with what we do, or what we care about, I should say. Collaboration is another huge area of our work, and I just want to draw attention to a really successful piece of work that was led in partnership with Atomic Skis, and they brought together over 100 leaders from snow sport brands, including brands that participate in the Federation of Europe of Sporting Goods, included Rossignol, Head, Solomon, Burton, Nidecker, and retailers such as Decathlon and Blue Tomato, all to look at how we can affect the hard goods market, how we can create the right kind of environment to allow a circular economy in something that is quite high emissions in its current status. But getting huge global brands to lead on action like this within their own industries is the way that we're going to affect the change of the scale that we need. And finally, the third strand of our work is around advocating. We've recently released a report and a campaign to get people to sign up, or to get brands in the outdoor space to sign up to a 90% cut in emissions by 2040. At least 20 leading brands have signed up to that so far. We're working with the Climate Action Network Europe, and POW Europe is a full member of CAN. And this is all leading up to a big program of work around the European elections. 2 billion is the number of people that are going to vote in the next few years. That's a huge number. That's a huge audience that we can influence beyond the usual audience that's interested in climate and nature. And those EU elections in particular are going to shape the future of climate policy and have influence beyond European borders. And we as climate advocates in snow sports know that we can't afford another 5 years of inaction on some of these big issues. These are the countries that will definitely vote in European elections: Sweden, Finland, Netherlands, Germany, Austria, Italy, France, and of course there'll also be elections in the UK, we suspect. So our aims as Protect Our Winters Europe is to push candidate parties to be progressive on climate, all parties, and I'll give you an example of that in a moment. It's to drive maximum voter turnout. There's been a huge drop in turnout in certain age ranges of people. And we want to create a meaningful footing for engagement with the new parliament when it's formed. Our campaign will be driven around sort of hashtags and messages that are focused on people who enjoy outdoor sports, those people who would usually probably rather go mountain biking or climbing than go to vote. So we need to make sure that they're aware of what's at stake, and it is those things that get them out of the house. Our programme is based on supporting a green energy transition, ending fossil fuel subsidies and incentivising renewables. It's about improving and promoting low carbon mobility. The way we travel to access the mountains is a huge part of the emissions associated with our sports. We're focusing on rail across Europe as the primary mode of transport for EU citizens to access the mountains. We are calling for an acceleration of biodiversity restoration and protection of wild places, advancing nature restoration laws, and as you've heard, moving towards circular business models across the supply chains that we use. And this white paper is being developed in partnering with the Citizens Climate Lobby, and it will be delivered to decision makers across the Protect Our Winters network. And the Go Vote campaign, that which is targeting particularly young people, the stay-at-home progressives, and those 18 to 25 voters that we know are being targeted particularly by right-wing parties. We've got something far more special to offer in protecting our outdoors. I just wanted to highlight a couple of the really successful advocacy campaigns, particularly because we have Elias on the call. Our Try Harder Fist campaign is something that was led by our Athlete Alliance. This started off as an open letter signed up to by nearly 500, in fact over 500 professional athletes competing in snow sports globally so far. And this campaign was renewed very recently on the back of the preparations for the Soldum Zermatt races early in the season, which many people will have seen the photographs of diggers and bulldozers on glaciers. And we heard earlier that the season is already lost over 30 days of snow sports in the mountains, but the race calendar hasn't changed. So the campaign led by the athletes is asking for visibility over the environmental impact of snow sports, a commitment to 50% reduction in emissions. It's calling for an adjustment to the race calendar to reduce the impact on snow and reduce the reliance on high intensity travel, and really calling for FIS to represent its athletes in providing leadership in the space, because our athletes are absolutely critical in advocating for protecting what we love, and if their own representative body is not able to demonstrate that leadership, then we're not going to deliver the impact that we want. The next campaign I'd love to share with you is led by POW Austria, and this was back in a couple of months ago, and this was both an art project and a political project in holding a funeral for one of the dying glaciers in Austria. It was supported by the two main branches of the church in Austria, had very strong political attendance from across the political spectrum, and had phenomenal coverage in the press in Austria too. Using the artwork around a melting coffin, holding a ceremony to really highlight the plight of mountain regions that are not accessible to the majority of people. So really sort of bringing the message across the country and picked up across Europe as well. So these are the sorts of campaigns that POW is able to run that has influence far wider than just snow sports. So I'd just like to finish off my presentation with just a sort of, I suppose, a bit of a plea in terms of how you can get involved, but also some messages to those people out there who support us. To the scientists who, including Heidi in the room there with you, please, keep pushing your messages. We're listening. Use Protect Our Winters and our access to the 17 million people in Europe who participate in snow sports, who aren't your usual audience. To the athletes like Elias, thank you so much for continuing to stand up to protect our winters. POW provides a community where we can support each other, can support you, and your voice as athletes changes people's minds. You are the most authentic voices for protecting our winters and for snow sports. To the brands, particularly those that are stretching their profit margins to demonstrate systemic change and what's possible, and we know how difficult that is in a highly competitive environment, thank you. We'll remember those that lead that change, and we'll do our best to support you as brands and retailers in your mission. And finally, to all of the decision makers that I'm sure are there in the room too, please listen to these voices. Our mountain places are not just special for those of us that enjoy them, they're also critical for natural resources and water and people's lives and livelihoods. So thank you very much, Heidi. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Alistair. Here. What an impactful presentation that was. And you're right, POW will not manage to do everything alone. We need to team up. And I think it's incredibly inspiring what POW is doing. And I'm happy to say that in the room, we actually have another member of POW on the US side. But thank you so much for joining. And it's great. It's great that you can see POW from across the pond. For sure. Great. So thank you, Will.
Hi, POW.
Exactly.
It's very difficult not being able to see any audience, Heidi.
I know. It's really awkward, but that's the way it is, Alissa. And again, thank you so much for joining. We really appreciate it. So we'll have time for questions and answers at the end of the session. We have 2 more people to speak to, and we will try one more time to speak to our snowboarder in chief, who has settled somewhere in the mountains. Elias, welcome back.
Yes, hello, and apologies for before.
No problems. We understand. We understand you're in the mountains, so that's the way it goes.
I was convinced the network was better there, but now I should have a pretty good spot here. I got a really nice cozy spot at the start of the run, as you can tell.
It looks so great. So tell us more about you. You were just getting started.
Yeah, so I could just continue where we left off before.
Yeah, exactly. We'll put your slides back on.
Okay, cool.
This one.
So,
perfect.
Well, basically, I only just said this is me being 14 years old, dreaming to become a professional snowboarder. And this is all I wanted to do. And so I put everything I had, all my efforts into this sort of live dream. And then, yes, it kind of worked out. And I did competitions. I could make that a living. And I even could pursue the kind of snowboarding that I wanted, which is what we're actually doing right now, riding in the backcountry in the deep snow, which is a picture on the next slide, a few impressions from that. This has really been all I ever dreamt of. But then after some time, after some years, I felt like it was almost a little empty or even shallow in the face of climate emergency and other pressing issues that we face, that what I did was basically being an advocate for pleasure, fun, for people to just go out there and enjoy, but also buy, consume jackets or boards or all the items that my sponsors would basically try to push through supporting an athlete like me. And so with that controversy, I was like, how am I going to continue, or am I going to continue? I have been doing this for many years now. I'm not sure whether I would want to continue under these circumstances, feeling so disconnected sort of with this person that I have become, and the sort of the messaging that I would put out, whether that was to like, people would come to me at premieres and be like, oh, how's the snow in Japan? Must be so much better. And I was like, no, actually, you're in Austria. It's amazing. But that was sort of the messaging that we put out by, promoting films that, yes, maybe we filmed in Japan more for production reasons, because it was good already in January. But I really didn't like the messaging that we would communicate. And so I kind of reached a point, maybe next slide. Not sure if that's already.
Yeah, we're putting it on now. Yeah.
Yeah, this one, I guess, is just symbolizing, like, I wasn't too sure whether I should keep going, and I felt like I would have to make more sense of what I was doing if I was to keep going. And so I decided not to stop, but to try and incorporate those contradictions in what my sport contained, and talk about it and be really upfront about it. And so I actually did a film that's called Contra Addiction. So a little wordplay there between, yes, obviously the controversy there, but also the addiction, the love, so to say, that I feel for the sport, but really being very transparent about sort of the environmental impact that we have with our sport, being very privileged. It's a very expensive sport. It uses a lot of resources even to get to the mountain, then to use all those products and whatnot. So that's just part of it. And I thought that it would be a very important starting point to do any changes, to be very honest, and to to show that, but to take that as a starting point, to take energy from that sort of point, and see where your best leverage points are to do something better. And I think that was for me then the following years to seek opportunities to have an impact. Whether that was to work with brands for them to make, like, I have a pro model signature boot that has less impact, or the most environmental impact, that the least environmental impact we could possibly have. So there's different areas, obviously, but all of this is always still in the industry, and a lot of greenwashing is around as well. I'm well aware of this. So I wanted to also have more of a structural impact. And POW, here comes POW, and where Protect Our Winters is such an amazing organization that really elevates the voices of athletes, of advocates, facilitates sort of advocacy to a much greater level than I could usually have. And so the best practice example for this is that I wanted to do a political action, because I felt like this is where we needed the biggest change, and we needed to get out of this sort of blaming game. I personally didn't feel like we were getting much further with sort of this lifestyle focus and blame game. So I was hoping to sort of add to the structural political scope of it. And so I've initiated this program called, or new format, if you will, called Climate Dialogue on the Mountain, together with Protect Our Winters. And we've sort of had our first event there. With the pictures you see, we're on Zugspitze, which is Germany's highest mountain. And this was just at the start of in the midst of the Bavarian election. Bavaria, biggest state of Germany, so it's a pretty important elections as far as climate policy goes, because Bavaria is always a bit like, I feel like, putting the brakes on and delaying a lot of necessary change within Germany. And one of those reasons why they do it is, in my eyes, is a romanticized idea of how nature has to look. So to advocate against windmills, wind turbines, has been very, very present over the last decade in Bavaria, which caused almost a stop of the wind turbine industry. And that also had to do, in my eyes, with a romanticized idea of outdoor sports, that everything has to be as it always has been. And I felt like this was a very dishonest idea of what we do, because we drive there with fossil fuels from Russia or elsewhere in the world to the mountains to then enjoy our lovely little place. So I thought it would be very important to advocate for a much more transparent policy as well at home, and have renewables installed. So that is one concrete example of what we try to advocate for. And Bavaria is claiming to be climate neutral in 2040, and is far off track from that goal. So this was sort of the background, and we've managed to invite most the leading politicians from all the parties. to come up to the Zugspitze with us and have a panel discussion with us. We've also invited media to come join us. And so in the end, we had a 2 hours panel discussion. We also had scientists up there, which really added to the quality of the conversation. And it made it into the evening news in Bavaria and in other TV channels. And so that helped us to really put a spotlight on the subject matter, to sort of place climate policy on the top of the agenda, at least for that moment in time. Obviously, there's many other competing issues at the moment, but I felt like it was important, or it was worth doing that we put a spotlight on climate policy with that action, but also we could really build sincere connections to the politicians from different parties, also right-wing parties that were up there, that I felt like was really helpful, that they were taken out of the sort of like mundane realities of everyday policies down in the valley, but quite literally be above them and try and talk above like their usual conflict lines. And we found that really helpful. So yeah, this is, as an example, our first sort of event of a new format that we'd like to further establish, Climate Dialogue. We would like to give athletes like myself and others that are motivated the chance to have a direct access to policy makers and advocate for what they love. And I'm not talking protect our winters. I'm not always a fan of that sort of that name, because it's not about protecting our winters in a very privileged way, but I think it's about everyone using their best sort of position to and their best leverage point to have an impact. And for us winter sport enthusiasts, this is a community that we can bond, that we can do this together. And obviously it's not about sort of saving our sport, but really saving the future of the world we live in. And everyone will have to play a role. And I hope with the story I've just shared, I could highlight how even in an unlikely position like the one I was in, I was struggling to and really trying to find my place to have an impact and do something. And I would encourage everyone out there. I know there's people from very different backgrounds, just to seek to look for their leverage point, to see where they can do the best, not to stop what they're doing, but to see how they can better where they're in, and yeah, to have an impact for a better future. I think we all will look back to this moment and yeah, we'll be happy if we have done something, or we'll regret if we haven't. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, Elias. Thank you. I think this is incredibly inspiring, especially coming from an athlete like you. You know, I had a quick question to ask you, and I believe that we should take questions for Elias now, because I'm sure you're keen to go back to your
Freezing a
snowboard.
little bit. So yes, please.
Yeah, exactly. But I had one very quick question, if it's okay if I get started.
Sure.
But my question is, you know, I think this is so inspiring. We really need the people from the field, the athletes like you know, to lead by example. But it's a very simple question. What have you gained and what have you lost also by, you know, using your voice to try to make a change? Because I think we need to be aware of perhaps, you know, the risks that you've encountered, but also how you feel about yourself, you know, making this change in your career.
Right. I think for me, it's been a process of at least 5 years that I've tried to find more authenticity and standing in what I do, and POW isn't a vital part of that. But I'm also engaged in other programs, like a social program where I also study psychology on the side, and I'm supporting projects for youth that are disadvantaged. So all this combined gave me a much greater authenticity, and honestly, the funny thing is, it even gave me a chance to to keep going at what I was doing, because now I can enjoy much better what am I doing, and I can allow myself to do that with a more well-rounded idea of myself, and with the feeling that I do contribute in means that I would like to see the world going. And I do remember, let's say 5 or a couple of years back, I would feel so bad sort of living this pleasure-driven lifestyle that I couldn't enjoy it as much at all. And so I would like to use the image of a tiramisu. That tiramisu is amazing, and it's my favorite dessert. But we cannot live from tiramisu, and so I think for me it's really been to like find sort of real food that I could sort of live from and feel like I'm participating in the world. And now I can enjoy the tiramisu much better even. So that's kind of been my journey in that regard.
That's great. That's such a good lesson. We can't leave off of tiramisu. I agree. Well, thank
Yes.
you, Elias. We won't keep you longer, but we really, really appreciate you making the time today. And
Yeah,
please
of
be
course.
careful out there. Enjoy this beautiful snow, and we'll definitely keep in touch and keep inspiring us. Thank
Yeah,
you.
well, thanks for having the chance to talk, and greetings to Dubai. How crazy is that, right?
We can also
Incredible.
ski here apparently, but it's not quite the same.
Yeah, I guess it needs a hole and a lot of cooling systems, right?
Yes, exactly. Okay.
Right.
Thank you so
Okay,
much.
cool. Hey, all the
Take care. Have a
best.
great day. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
Great. So we'll move on to our very last speaker, who also recorded a presentation today because his grandmother is celebrating his birthday today. So he had a very good reason why he couldn't join us live on a Sunday. But the presentation will be from Flo Fabienne. He's actually the sustainability director of Picture, which is a clothing brand from France. He's not here to talk about the brand, he's here to talk about how the textile industry can be a leader in also fighting for our mountains and fighting against climate change. So I'll be sharing. Do you want to join me, Amy? Is sharing the slides again. Thank you. Let's go to the right. That's on. Wait, not this one.
This is working. Perfect. And I will start the video. This one doesn't want to go away. Nope, next one. This one. Here we are.
Hi everybody, I'm Flo, the sustainability manager of Picture, a textile company from. Before presenting the brand, I just would like to say thank you. Thanks a lot for the invitation. I'm super happy to be here, and sorry to not be live with you today. But our industry is facing, and especially where we should accelerate our efforts in terms of climate actions and new regulations. So clearly, I'm not going to talk 15 minutes about the brand, about Picture, the company I work for. Picture is a drop in the ocean, vision for the industry, and alert you guys on some critical issues. Of course, I'm also going to talk about positive stuff and solutions, but I heard the audience today might be made of policymakers. I mean, that's perfect. Relevant policies is exactly what we are going to talk about, what we need. All right, I'm going to share my screen right now. You should see it. All right. So yeah, about picture, quickly. That's a French brand created in 2008 at 384 ppm. We make clothing for skiing, snowboarding, biking, surfing, and the B Corp certification in 2019. As I said, I'm going to be very transparent with you, because transparency and honesty are values we miss a lot in this industry. So here we are, where we do good, where we could improve. We have a rental program. We don't do Black Friday. We have only 2 collections per year. We use more than 80% recycled materials in our collections. We are a B Corp certified company. We do some decarbonation actions with our suppliers, and we are a Fairware member. That was in short. Where we need to improve the size and the number of references in our collection, accelerate our efforts to relocate production in Europe. So yeah, clearly we have work to do. We know where to improve, and Elias Ellart, one of our professional snowboarders, is here in the panel, and I guess he will agree with all that. But clearly, the idea is not to be irreproachable in a system that is not. If I'm here today, it's to try to change the system, and that's the best place to try to do it. COP28. So the problem at the moment, and it's been years like this, it's a huge problem, is that we irresponsible way. That's a problem. Of my talk. This is not a matter of finished products, it's a matter of business model. And clearly, I've been in this industry for years, for more than 10 years. We've been talking way too much about materials and packaging. It's time to elevate the debate. So before talking about solutions and actions, look at this number. Plus 49% increase of emissions for the textile industry in a business as usual scenario. Clearly, we are not heading in the right. And did I say plus 49%? Yes, I did. And that's pretty funny and pretty sad in the same time, of course, to see that it's almost the opposite of another number, minus 43, reduction in 3%, minus 43% in reduction of our emissions to maintain temperature in high, minus 33% on the other side. we clearly have a problem. So, all right, what do we need? What do we need? What should be the new norm? What should we see from companies to transform this industry? We need more repairs. We need more durability. We need more timelessness of products and collections. We need more rental programs. We need more right prices, here, second-hand, living wages, low-carbon products. We need more sobriety. We need more sobriety. And guys, the latest issue from China with the Uyghurs community. Clearly, those products should not cross the borders and enter the new markets. We need to introduce a European carbon border taxes for textile products. Textile products. We need a relevant methodology to calculate the carbon scoring of products. In Europe, we call that the product environmental footprint, PEF, and it's imagine having a product with a good score if the brand does Black Friday on it and renew collections 10 times a year. It doesn't make any sense. So once again, it's not a matter of finished products. It's a matter of business model, business practices. And finally, we need specific rules for the worst business model and practices. For example. Yeah, we definitely need some specific rules for such worst business. I'm asking you a question. When such a company does not respect anything, from an environmental point of view, a social point of view, how can their products could enter markets? That's the main question. Could enter markets. So of course, I know that it's very challenging. I don't talk about recycled polyester and reusable packages, and I know clearly, I know, but it's for the common good. It's for an industry that respects planetary boundaries.
Other people online have any questions? Maybe I have one. So you have one to get started?
Yes, I do.
So just so you know, we have Alistair, who is the president of POW Europe, still online.
I'm very glad to hear that. I'm Paul Foos from Alaska.
Great.
And I'm working with the Northern Forum, which is an association of all regional governments and cities across the Arctic. So we had a strong cooperation with Russia in terms of, the climate change program, temperature recordings, permafrost, ice conditions, everything. And this is all lost now. It's all been stopped. We put special equipment on ships to record in real time. And so, we had a lot of faith in the Arctic Council to help, bring this cooperation together. So I was just wondering if those in the sports world could really kind of take the lead in encouraging the Arctic Council to kind of come back and provide some leadership to get true Arctic cooperation. And I wonder if you might speak to where that stands right now. I guess there have been some movement, but again, all this, we need all hands on deck to approach this problem.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate your presence. And Alistair, if you don't mind, maybe I'll get started to answer this question, and then I'll pass it on over to you. But yeah, the situation has been beyond difficult with the Arctic Council and the situation between Russia and Ukraine. What happened is that, as you said, everything stopped. The Arctic Council was created during the Cold War. And despite all the geopolitics at the time, scientists were still able to communicate. But this time around, everything was put on hold. And you're totally right. I mean, without Russia, we're missing half of the Arctic. Just when it comes to permafrost, for example, we need to know what's happening to Russia. And it's been very, very tricky. Lucky now, Norway is chairing the Arctic Council for a little bit more than a year. And there's been there's another more than a year left to the Norwegian chairship. That's what I meant. And Norway really, really wants to bring Russia back, or at least the science from Russia back. It's still very tricky. It's tricky both ways, because Russia has also strong feelings about having their scientists collaborating with scientists from the West. But lucky, some of the programs have still been able to continue sharing data, to continue having an exchange with the Russian scientists, but it's truly been a minority. But I think your question is fascinating, and I'll pass it on over to you, Alistair, that we need to use every possible tool we have to keep communicating with the people from the outdoor industry in Russia and the scientists in Russia. So, Alistair, the question, I don't know if you heard it, even though you have a really strong voice, it's good. So the question is, do you think that, if I'm paraphrasing, the situation within the Arctic is very difficult at the moment. There's not a very good dialogue between scientists from the West and scientists from Russia. Do you think that perhaps, organizations like POW and also working with the people from the outdoor industry, whether it's the athletes or, the experts in other ways, could help to, continue this collaboration and kind of recreate these connections that have been lost with the war between Ukraine and Russia? It's a big question, but it's a very interesting one, I think.
It's a big question, Heidi, and I'm not sure that I know a huge amount about it to answer it very well. But I think what I would say is, what POW Europe has shown is that there's a huge amount to be gained from the different POW chapters working together. And, in terms of the Arctic Circle, we've got very active POW Finland, very active POW Norway, and very active POW Sweden. So I think I understand there's a representative POW US in the room there as well. So I think, that's maybe where there is a conversation for how we can, unite the right people with the right attitude to understand if there is, some sort of collaboration around the Arctic Circle, as well as the other geographic collaborations we have within POW.
Yeah, thank you, Alistair. And I'm wondering, are you aware of any environmental organizations within Russia that are still active at the moment that we could perhaps try to connect with?
I personally don't, no. But I think that's where the conversation with POW Finland would be.
Okay.
The hydrometeorological institutes, the Arctic and Antarctic Ice University in St. Petersburg.
Yeah.
But all of these have been stopped.
Yeah.
Okay, so our point is, what does this have to do with Ukraine?
Exactly.
Nothing.
Absolutely.
Does anybody believe this is going to change anything? No, it's meaningless. It's just stopping us from working. We're here at a conference saying this is the biggest existential threat to the entire planet, and we can't even share data.
Exactly. Yeah, it's extremely sad to see that science was put on hold because of this. I think all of us in the room here probably agree that these are very, very difficult times, and science needs to rise above this. Science should be untouchable. Scientific collaborations should be able to continue, even if we have these sort of conflicts. It's a huge conflict, of course, but the survival of humanity is also a big deal. And I really hope that we'll find a way. But I can share what I've learned from the Norwegian chairship. And Morten Hoglund is actually here. He's attending COP28. Yeah, he's here. And also my boss from AMAP, so Rolf Rudvan, who was with us earlier this afternoon, who will be joining on Wednesday. So we would be more than happy to continue this conversation with you and see, how we can, pull some strings to make it happen. That's great. Thank you. Are there any other questions from POW US?
I think I was just basically listening and hearing about what you all had to say. But
Come.
What did you say?
Come so we can see you with the camera. Oh no, come here. It's better from here. Come with me, just here, and you can speak to him directly.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, you can hear you. Yeah.
I can hear you great. Yeah.
All right, sounds good. So I am currently at COP28. I'm part of the Christian Climate Observers Program, and this is my first ever COP. And we're a group of organizations, Christian environmental organizations from different parts of the US, Canada, different parts of the world, and we came to observe the COP process. So I come from Boone, North Carolina in the Appalachian Mountains, and I've been skiing in that area for a little over 18 years now, and first joined the Protect Our Winters organization when basically last winter we had around 3.5 centimeters of snow the entire winter, which meant that lots of snow scarcity, precipitation fell as rain. As a result, the mountains completely relied on artificial snow to sustain ourselves through the season. And we are basically relying exclusively on artificial snow to get through our season right now. Our concern is that the temperature will rise to the point that we can't even make artificial snow anymore in Western North Carolina, which would mean that the 3 ski resorts that are close to where I live will likely have to shut down or diversify into like mountain biking or something else as well. So one of the main reasons why I went to the COP was because I'm interested in connecting with outdoor-minded people from both the ski and snowboarding industry, but also with other outdoor industries as well to push for climate action, but also to bring people together. So I guess kind of my question is to how to get involved with POW in an more active way. I joined as a member a few months ago, would like to get some communication connection going, but I would also love some connections and just basically my question is this: how to get involved from an outdoor standpoint and also get involved people from different parts of the outdoor community that like basically that love our mountains, that like to hike, that like to mountain bike, that like to ski, that honestly, I haven't seen that much of them at COP this year, and it's been almost 4 days, and I had to do a decent amount of like hunting around to find mountain-related talks. Period. So basically, the question is this: what could a roadmap to further collaboration and bridging different communities that seem to be fragmented? How could that be achieved?
Okay, was that a question for me?
Yes, sir.
That's a big question. I think, in terms of Protect Our Winters, I think that's still a very young network, but it's a young network that is only just really learning to find its global voice. So I think the reason that I'm talking to you here as a volunteer rather than one of our executive team is that they've all been in ISPO all of this week, meeting with representatives of different outdoor brands, because that's certainly the way we are creating a lot of action on a European scale, is by using the voice of those brands rather than just our individual voices to create connections. They have a far greater reach than we do, and then with the backup of an authenticity of the athletes like Elias that we heard from, that's certainly creating a weight of message. I think in terms of your personal journey, I think what I heard was that you already sort of signed up to a POW, a Protect Our Winters chapter, and a local group. POW lives on volunteers, and it lives on the energy and enthusiasm of those volunteers. So this is a conversation I'd be very happy to carry on outside of the COP room as well, in terms of making some personal connections. But I think keep doing what you're doing, but find out how we can bring our collective voice to a much bigger noise than the sum of all of those individual voices.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Well, do we have any further questions for Alistair? Can we let him enjoy his Sunday? Okay, we'll do that then. Thank you so very much, Alistair. So great to see you, and thank you for joining us here at COP. Get back to that amazing snow. and we'll keep in touch. I'll put you in touch with the gentleman who was just speaking now. But please, you want to say something? Go ahead.
Well, thank you, Heidi. I just wanted to thank you personally for everything you've done as a POW board member and supporter to give us this platform to talk to representatives there. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, take care. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.